I'm sure we can all find ourselves in a situation where we die and think, wow, I could have played that way better. Well, in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to improve your decision making in Apex Legends to prepare for Season 14. So be sure to stick around. As Apex Legends gets older, the average player gets better. So to come out on top in most squad fights, your decision making not only needs to be superior, but also a lot more consistent. So I'll be breaking down a handful of clips, as well as going over 4 key tips to help improve your decision making. Without wasting any time, let's jump into the first tip I have for you, which is selective engagement. The most common mistake I see players make is thinking they have to take shots every time they see an opponent. This is precisely the reason you could be losing easy gunfights. When it comes to Apex Legends, you need to understand the best chance to engage an enemy. If an enemy player has the advantage on you when it comes to positioning, you never want to force the shots right there and then. Rather, look to see how you can either make it a fair playing field or capitalize and get better positioning than them. The mentality difference between an average player and an above average player is the amount of patience they have. The better player in said situation will force the weaker player to make the mistakes, which is the biggest advantage to have in Apex Legends. Let's dive into a quick example. Hello, welcome to the first example where we are covering selective engagement. Now we have a 3-man team on height with us, and I believe a 2-man team down low. Remember, it's all about engaging in your favor. The best time to use this is when you can't afford to take damage. And since we're in a 2v3 situation, that's the perfect opportunity. With the help of Crypto's drone, I was able to spot out the seer, noticed he was healing, and that's the perfect opportunity for me to climb up, now making it a 2v2, and I still don't play it very aggressive because I know there's a 2-man team down low, so if I commit and take a lot of damage while trying to wipe this squad, I know I'm just going to get insta-wiped by the next one. So you really have to play it patient here, and that's exactly what I did. And when you play patient, guess what? The enemies start to make the mistake on you and or push you. That's what we saw there with the Mirage. He was panicking. He ended up pushing, losing his positioning and cover, and me and my teammate were able to wipe him successfully. Now it's a squad v squad, 2v2, last team alive, and I immediately go for height because I know that team's going to be pushing. But unfortunately, my Crypto was caught down low and they immediately sent him. But I was able to get the trade off Caustic, and now it's a 1v1. And I knew my teammate was fighting the Ash, so I decided to push and fully engage and fully invest and try and wipe this Ash. But as I start taking shots on the Ash, I noticed she has full red and not much damage was dealt on her. So I immediately have to back up, go for the nearest body swap off a box, and luckily it was a gold armor. So as I repositioned, I was still very low on health and I could not challenge right there and then. And I'm sort of running circles on this Ash until she gives me an opportunity to heal up. And I knew I wasn't going to get that extra time to heal unless it did some type of damage to this Ash. So once I had the better positioning, I simply waited until she had to climb up and she couldn't shoot at me, and I was able to get free shots right there and then. Now that actually spares me a few seconds to crank a cell or two.
Recharging shields. Wings out. Wings up. Fox 3 launching missile. Wings out.
And here we go, taking the last syringe to cap up on my health. So by using selective engagement, I was able to flip the script and make it a fair playing field.
Charging up my shields.
But here's where things get very interesting. I do enough damage to send, in which I do. However, she makes a brilliant play, takes out the Ash port, and takes my height. She notices I gave up the height, and she immediately went for it, and that was a beautiful play on her part. I did not expect that. And now we're just about both cracked. However, she has red, so she probably has like 20 more HP than me. And now she made the same mistake I did. She gave up height. I read that and I immediately took it from her.
Wait. Fox 3, sending home. Recharging all my shields. Damn it.
And with a quick close-up Valk tack, I was able to actually stun her, which was mind-blowing. And as soon as I hit that, I knew it was over. When you get stunned with the Valk tack, you're there for a few seconds, and that was my opportunity to close out the game. So remember, don't force engagement. Have selective engagement. By doing this, not only you will avoid taking damage, but your gunfight exchanges will be in your favor. Now that we've covered selective engagement, it's time to jump into the second tip I have, which is positional awareness. To improve your decision making, it's crucial to understand the layout of the map and to know which spots are more advantageous than others. The next time you're playing Apex, try asking yourself, is this the best spot? What are my escape routes? How many angles can I be shot from? This might seem very difficult to do, but actually becomes secondhand nature once you learn the areas of the map that you're fighting at. Especially if you can recall a time where you might have made a horrible mistake in the past. The next time you meet an opportunity to fight there, trying another approach wouldn't hurt. It's all about experimenting what works best for you, since everyone is good and bad in their own ways. Let's check out a quick example. Welcome to example number 2, where we're covering positional awareness. And here's where we find ourselves in a duo game at Estates. We're coming up on a nice third party.
Broken enemy.
We were able to wipe the one squad, but we now also have the other team, which is a 2-man team, and they're now on height, so they have better positioning than us. They are going to be pre-aiming down low, waiting for the push, or they might potentially drop, and that's actually going to help in our favor. But since they're decent players, they don't make the mistake to drop, so I tell Quiche, listen, we're going for immediate height, and we'll get the roof of their building. Yes, they have second floor, but they don't have ultimate height, which is the roof. So that's the game plan, getting the best positioning possible. And while we did that, it worked. But we got third-partied and they went to the bottom floor. So we essentially switched positions. However, now we're in favor of the better positioning when it comes to getting third-partied.
Shall we head this way, darlings? I cracked that hooligan shield. Recharging my shields.
And now the team underneath us, the original team, started getting a little bit more aggressive. They noticed we got the knock, get beautiful shots off Pathy, and that's when I knew we have to send this 2-man team down low. Since I got the first knock off the Wraith on the third-partying team, Wraith's teammate is going to go for a res, so that's going to give us enough time to drop down, wipe this team, and then prepare for them.
Shields recharging. Enemy here.
Then we get third-partied again. Shout out to Estates for being third-party central, but this team is actually flying in. So I was thinking in the back of my head, let's see if I can climb up, because I know when they drop, their gun's not going to be immediately ready. So that should give me enough time to get some damage out or a potential 1 mag.
This way. You can?
And that's a great bubble. So I tell Quiche he's one shot. Quiche gets the cleanup, but also gets traded. So now it's a 1v1. And Quiche also cracked the Valkyrie, so I know she's low. And I immediately have to push her as soon as possible.
Recharging my shields.
And here's where I made a horrible mistake. Instead of full healing, I accidentally dropped on the bottom and the Valk flew up, took height on me. So she capitalized on my mistake. She got better positioning right there and then. Then I get caught out in the open in this bottom room, and my thought is I need to have a backwards fight. While I'm shooting, while she's gonna peek, I need to start backing up so I can have some sort of cover while I take the next heal. I'm absolutely one shot, and then I take a cell while also having a backwards fight and also thinking about what I can utilize cover next as soon as I get this cell off. So far, we've covered selective engagement and positional awareness. Before we jump into the third tip I have to help improve your decision making, if you enjoy the video this far, a like rating is always appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe for some more valuable content. Let's get right into the third tip I have, which is baiting pushes. Becoming an unpredictable player is what will start to separate you from the rest. Instead of constantly going head-on into gunfights in the most obvious ways, this leaves it into the hands of the player who has the better shot and reaction time. Unless you're trying to third-party a team, then go in guns blazing. But let's say you have the chance to fight a fair 3v3, with no other teams around. If you notice that both your team and the other team are evenly matched and no one wants to make the first move, then this is when baiting pushes will force those semi-patient players to fall for the bait and overexpose themselves. This can easily create openings and free shots for your teammates to perhaps get a knock or deal enough damage for you to capitalize on. Let's get into a quick example. Alrighty, beautiful people, we're jumping into the third example, which is going to be covering baiting pushes. We find ourselves in another squad game, and when it comes to baiting pushes, I recommend doing this only when you have an escaping and or mobility legend. You could, however, bait with a non-movement legend, but you need to know your team is there for sure on the backup, and you'll see why in just a moment. So as soon as I'm playing underneath her, I try to get her to drop so I can take a nice fair 1v1 with her. And what I do is dance around underneath her. I want her to drop on me. That's going to split her apart from her team. She doesn't drop. I notice she has to reload the PK, so that's when I climb up. This time I tried baiting the caustic to drop and lose height, and that didn't work at all. So this team has some great patience. They know not to chase. And here's where I made a mistake because I should have healed, but I ended up rechalling for the third time in a row to see if I can get a nice little one mag because I have no bats in this situation. Luckily, I'm getting lifeline res, which is amazing, but I'm thinking in the back of my head, you know what? These guys are going to push. They got to knock off me. But with the help of my bang teammate, she was an amazing distraction. So I take the port back to the drone and I need to sell up. Again, I don't have any bats, so I'm slow healing this entire way through, and the next ring is almost about to close. So now I'm pretty much out of light ammo, I'm out of cells, we're very desperate with loot, and I see a PK sitting on the box, so I need to swap to it, so that way I can at least have a secondary weapon since it's still a 3v3. And as I climb up to get some real estate and some cover in the next zone, I notice the whole enemy team is already set up shop with the best positioning possible. They have height. We do have a spot in safe zone, which is great. We don't have much area to work with to make that second move, so I'm thinking in the back of my head, I need to make a bait push here, because if they try and come out and overexpose and overpeak to try and thirst or kill me, that's going to give free and open shots for my teammates to clean them up or to get some decent amount of damage off.
Traps. Broken enemy shield.
Now the enemy team knows I'm here and they all start turning their attention to me. I noticed the Lobo was getting impatient, very aggressive, and that's when I pop the phase, go back to my team. Shout out to Lifeline, Resin, absolute beauty. Gets the knock on Loba. And the last one died to a Bengal. Already champion squad from Selective Engagement to Positional Awareness, and now having just covered baiting pushes, it's time to get into the last tip I have for you, which is arguably the most important, especially when it comes to solo players, which is separate and single out. Now that I am on PC, I noticed that most of these players are W key warlords, or in other words, enemies that love to hold hands and push anything and everything in their path. This can be very hard to deal with, especially when solo queuing. This is also most likely the case for console as well. But regardless, the best thing I found to not fall into their game and get overwhelmed is by simply running away. I think too many people watch Fade and Asu play and think they can take the 1v3 or even 1v2 on the spot, when that is just not the play. This is where you want to create a lot of distance between you and the enemy team, and aim to obtain high ground if possible. This is hands down the best way to separate the enemy team. Octane will start stimming after you, Pathy will grapple after you, and next thing you know, the faster legends on the enemy team will be way ahead and give you a 1v1 opportunity. This will be your best chance to clutch up in a man down situation. Let's take a look at our final example. Welcome back, beautiful people, to the final example of today's video, which is going to be covering separating and singling out. And here we find ourselves in a 2v3 situation. So I noticed this 3-man team is pulling up, but they don't know exactly where we are until that scan goes off. And that's when I decide to make an aggressive portal play to get this team a little more nervous and on their toes. And notice how I drop both ends of the portal. The first end is behind cover, and the second end is also behind cover. So that way they don't know exactly where the portal goes to and from. So now I know there's 2 to my right, and I also see the one separated and split from their team off to my left. This is the best opportunity for me to get a fair 1v1 with that Bloodhound. was able to take out Bloodhound successfully, arguably the biggest fight in the situation right there and then. Now it's a 2v2, and I know one crossed over and attempts to get a res, but my teammate gets knocked by the other player. So if I try working this res fight, I know the person on top of me is going to pinch, flank me, just cause absolute ruckus. So instead of trying to push the way of the knock, I decide to separate out the Revenant even more by dealing damage to him. Once I get that damage off, that's going to spare me even more time to focus down low.
45 seconds. Ring close. Reloading. Broken enemy shield. Enemy down. Another enemy down. We're close to the ring. 30 seconds left.
Then I start wiping Revenant's teammates, and notice I don't wipe them completely instantly both at the same time. That might avoid Revenant from actually pushing me. He's still taking his time to push, so then I go for the second wipe, and that way I have a body swap off a death box right next to me.
Close. We should go here.
And a successful little squad wipe right there. Now we're going to jump into another quick example, and this one's going to be on Storm Point. And we find ourselves in a 2v1 situation. My teammate ends up getting wiped while I was attempting to wipe another squad. So I full heal, get some good positioning, and seeing what kind of damage I can deal from a distance. And in the first exchange, they absolutely destroyed me. So now we need to back up. I'm playing Horizon, I don't really have the most mobility, only when it comes to height. So I make my way over to the first house that I can actually play on height, but I hear an ash portal take the roof. And this is the prime moment I'm looking for me to take a fair 1v1. Now putting it into a 1v1 situation. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is going to conclude the 4 tips I have for you today to improve your decision making, from selective engagement to positional awareness, baiting pushes, and finally separating and singling out. The next time you're playing, use these 4 tips to your advantage, and I promise you, your decision making will be through the roof. If you guys enjoyed today's video, like rating is always appreciated. Don't forget to subscribe, join the champion squad for some more valuable content, and I will catch you guys in the next video.